Hello, I hope you're all okay. Sorry that the lesson on anaerobic respiration didn't work the other day. Fingers crossed this works a little bit better for you. So the first thing you need to do is try and write down everything you can remember about the lungs from year 7. So that could be the structure, what they do, anything like that. So just in the back of your exercise book, can you write down any ideas or anything you can remember about the lungs? Then you've got a challenge question there. What is the difference between respiration and breathing? Which we did a little bit of last week, so hopefully you can remember some of that. So just write down a few ideas, pause the video while you're doing that, and obviously press play in a few minutes once you've written down enough, and then I'll go through some answers for you. So this is what I've got. I've put a picture of the lungs on here. I don't know if you can follow my mouse or not. So you start off with the trachea. It breaks down into the bronchi, which isn't labelled, and then into the bronchioles, which are sort of the branch looking like things, and then to the alveoli, which look a little bit like little bunches of grapes. And what happens is as you breathe in, the alveoli inflate, and that's where gas exchange happens. That's where the oxygen goes into your blood and where the carbon dioxide comes out of it. And they've got a really large surface area, really good blood supply, and that's sort of the basics. So if you did the challenge question then, so breathing then gets oxygen into the body, and respiration uses the oxygen to break down glucose to release energy, and respiration is a chemical reaction. Breathing is just sort of a natural process. There's no chemical reaction involved, there's just gas exchange, whereas respiration, we're actually using the oxygen to do something else. In your exercise books, if you write the title down, which is the effects of exercise, and today's date, which is the 21st of the 10th, .20, I'll keep moving this little thing out of the way. I'm going to try and put it in the top corner so it's not in the way for you. So the main objective of this lesson is to try and understand what exercise does to the body and what effects it has, which you may have some idea about already, but obviously we're going to look into the science behind it as well. First thing then, there is a video which I've posted in Teams which you need to watch, which just recaps the lungs, so you might have to swap between YouTube and that video now. And while you're watching it, obviously you can't do it on a whiteboard, but in the back of your book, think about why the lungs are important during exercise. So I've broken it down into a few more questions for you. So think about what you need to exercise, how do we get it, what do we need for this process, how do we get that into our bodies, and then how does it get around our bodies. So pause the video, go and watch the video about lungs, and then obviously come back to this one and we'll talk through some of this. First of all then, what do you need for exercise? Energy. If you don't have energy, you can't do any exercise. How do we get energy? It's through that chemical reaction we talked about earlier, respiration. What do we need for this process to happen? So our two reactants during respiration are oxygen and glucose. How do we get this into our bodies? Oxygen, we already said we breathe in, and glucose we get from our food. And how does it get around our bodies? So oxygen we know goes into the lungs, and then from the lungs it goes into the blood, and then around the body to the cells, and obviously the heart pumps the blood around the body. So what you need to think about now then is what happens to your body during exercise. So pause the video, write down a few ideas, and then we'll talk through it in a few minutes. So hopefully you've got a few ideas written down. And we'll talk through, well, this is what I've got anyway. So first of all, you get hotter. I don't know about you, but when I exercise or even walk anywhere, I start to feel a little bit warmer. Your breath gets faster and deeper. So if you go for a run, by the end of it, you're probably sort of breathing a lot heavier, taking in bigger breaths. Your heart rate increases and changing the amount of blood flow to parts of the body. So obviously people get cramp when they exercise. That's to do with lactic acid. But generally, your muscles are the part that are working, the part of you that are working the hardest. So you need more blood going to them. So what we would be doing normally is we would be doing a small investigation. We're getting a couple of people up, make them do a little bit of exercise and try and figure out what effect exercise has on the human body. So first we need to think about our dependent variable. So a dependent variable is the thing that we measure during an experiment. So what I want you to do is just think about what we could measure, and then I would like you to think about some control variables as well, and that's what we would keep the same during our investigation. So pause it, have a think about it, and we'll come back to it in a few minutes. So first of all then, dependent variable, so what we're measuring, we could measure the breathing rate, so how many breaths someone has taken in a minute. So measure at the start, measure at the end, and see if it's changed. We could measure the heart rate, so that's how many times your heart beats a minute, and also temperature. And things we're going to have to keep the same then are the type of exercise. You couldn't make someone walk and someone run do like a sprint up and down the corridor, because that wouldn't be the same thing. It's not fair. It's not the same type of exercise, or the same intensity of exercise. The person sprinting is going to have to work a lot harder, so it wouldn't make it a fair test, would it? The time the exercise is done for, again, you wouldn't want someone exercising for 20 minutes and then another person exercising for 20 seconds. It's not going to be comparable. And the fitness of the person. If you think about it, if we got Mo Farah to do some exercise for a minute, and then we got someone like, who's a celebrity that you probably know of? Somebody like, I can't think of anyone. Oh my goodness, this is terrible. Like one of the kids from Stranger Things, or one of those, I don't know what kids you date, like what people watch these days. But it wouldn't be the same thing. Mo Farah is obviously a lot fitter than like a kid from a TV show. So hopefully that makes sense. So obviously you can't do the investigation. And in fact, we won't actually be doing it in school either. I'm just going to give everyone a set of results. So we've got a temperature before exercise and a temperature after exercise. We've got a pulse rate measured in beats per minute, so that's how many times the heart is beating per minute. And we've got before and after. So what I want you to do is write a statement based on your findings, or based on my results. And I've given you a sentence starter there. So exercise affects the body by, and then tell me, so does it increase the temperature or does it decrease the temperature? Or does it increase the pulse rate or does it decrease the pulse rate? So pause the video so you've got enough time to do that. And we'll move on. So if we were in class, we will be having a discussion about how the change in breathing and pulse rate is linked to respiration. So we'll go through that now. So obviously we know respiration releases energy. It breaks down glucose with oxygen to produce carbon dioxide, water, and energy. Now, when you exercise, obviously you need more energy. Otherwise, you're going to be really, really tired, and your body's not going to be able to move as much as it needs to. Now, to carry out respiration, to release that energy, you need oxygen, because remember, oxygen breaks down the glucose. To get oxygen into our body, we obviously breathe it in through our lungs. And to get oxygen to the cells where respiration is happening, it has to travel in the blood. Just realised my sentence doesn't make very much sense there. To get the oxygen to the cells where respiration is happening, it has to travel. So I'm just going to get rid of that word there. It should be it. Has to travel. Apologies. Next one, and then the heart pumps the blood around the body. So obviously, if you think about it, when you exercise, you need more energy. To get more energy, you need to do more respiration. To be able to do more respiration, you need more oxygen, which means you're going to have to breathe it in more. And then it's no good just breathing it in, it needs to get to where respiration is actually happening, which is in the cells. Now, to get to the cells, it has to travel around the blood. And to get the blood to your cells quickly, your heart has to pump faster. So just that's there. If you need to pause it and look at it and read through it again a couple of times, that's absolutely fine. Hopefully it all makes sense. Now, what I want you to do then, with everything that we've just learned, You need to have a go at answering those questions in full sentences in your books. So again, pause the video, answer the questions, and then we'll go through the answers. So if you pause it now, right, hopefully you've got all those questions answered and hopefully it all made sense. Let's go through these then. So what happened to your breathing rate and pulse rate during exercise? So breathing rate and heart rate, so I've said heart rate instead of pulse rate, increases during exercise. What does your body need more of during exercise? When you exercise your muscles, your body needs more oxygen. So which chemical reaction needs to happen more frequently during exercise? During exercise, respiration has to happen more frequently. And then the challenge question, which hopefully you've all had a go at, is explain how the change in your breathing rate and pulse rate allows the chemical reaction, so respiration, to happen more frequently. So I'll read through the answer. So respiration releases the energy. You need more energy when you exercise and therefore more oxygen. The breathing rate increases to get more oxygen into the body, and the heart pumps faster to get the oxygen to the cells where it is needed for respiration. So obviously if you've made any mistakes during that, change your answers, mark it, just like you normally would in lesson. And it means when you come back to school after half term, you won't be any further behind than anyone else. If you've got any problems, email me. I'm always available to answer questions. And there's just a few more tasks for you to do as well. So what we're going to do, we're going to look at a couple of graphs and you're just going to write some ideas down in your books, obviously not on whiteboards. So who is the fittest? Steve and Derek want to find out which of them was the most fittest. They did some exercise which made them both breathe faster. They then stopped exercising and then timed how long it took for their breathing rates to return to normal again. So we've got their results on a graph on the next slide. And so as you can see here, they've stopped their, so they've started their exercise, then they've stopped, and then we're looking for when their breathing rate becomes normal again. So after how many minutes did Steve and Derek stop exercising? So the point you're looking for here is when did their breathing rate stop increasing? In fact, not stop decreasing, stop increasing. When did it start decreasing? So look at the graph. After how many minutes did their breathing rate stop? Well, doesn't make any sense. Let me say that again. I do apologise. It's like 10 o'clock at night. So you're looking at when their breathing rate started to decrease. That's when exercise would have finished, when your breathing rate starts to go back to normal. Think you've just run a race, you stop, and your breathing rate starts to slow down then. So answers then, 2 minutes. So we can see we've got a straight line, a straight flat line, and then it starts decreasing. So number 2, from the graph, who do you think is the fittest and why? So here, I'd be looking for who has got the lowest breathing rate normally. So when they get back to normal, who has got the lowest breathing rate? That's what I would go for anyway. So if you look, it says Derek as his breathing rate has returned to a steady resting rate before Steve. So if we look, Derek's breathing rate is back to normal after 7 minutes, and it takes Steve a whole minute longer to get back to normal. And then last question, explain how this investigation may not have been fair. So what could they have done wrong to make this investigation not fair? So have a think about it, pause it if you need some more time, and I'll go through the answer. So, answer then. Derek and Steve may have been exercising to varying degrees. So, for example, Derek could have been doing more exercise than Steve, or Steve could have been doing more exercise than Derek, which is probably more likely because it took Steve longer to recover. So that's it for the lesson. Hopefully it all makes sense. As I said, do email me if you've got any problems. I'll try and put the video up for anaerobic respiration. I think I can probably put it up on YouTube for you to watch, just so you've not missed anything. And hopefully there's enough. I think there should be enough to fill a lesson. You have to tell me if you want anything extra, or you feel like you're running out of work, then email me, let me know, and I can sort you something out. Okay, well, look after yourselves, and I will see you soon.